The meeting come to order. Welcome to the State Ethics Commission meeting. Today is October the 19th, 2022. The time is 9:01. I'm the chair, Wesley Fong, and I'd like to have roll call be taken for quorum. Robert, do you want to go through the list? And also the staff.
Sure, of course. Chair McCarthy. Sorry,
Here.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Here.
Commissioner Tobias,
Here.
Also, before I forget, please indicate whether or not you are alone.
I'm alone.
All right.
And I'm alone too.
thank you. Recognizing Commissioner Gralty and Commissioner Hong are excused. You do have quorum, Chair. Moving on to staff, maybe I'll simply ask the staff to introduce themselves and indicate if they're alone.
Let's start with Bonita.
Bonita Chang, staff attorney, present and alone.
Key,
Campbell, staff attorney, present and alone.
and I believe it's Nancy
Nancy Knifer, staff attorney, present and alone.
and Susan.
Susan Yoza, Associate Director, present and alone.
Patrick.
Oh, is it Patrick? Patrick, take note that we have a quorum and also that everyone's alone. For any members of the public who may be joining us remotely, which I don't see any just in case, the commission's video conference connection, if it's lost during the meeting, we will recess the meeting and start over again. Please check the commission's website, www.ethics.hawaii.gov, for information about reconnecting to the meeting. If the meeting is continued to a later date or terminated, information about this will be posted on our website. Is anybody in our public would like to identify him or herself? I see one person. Would you like to identify yourself? If not, that's okay. I guess.
It's Kai.
Hi, and you are?
Kai Lawrence.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, because we are on a tight schedule, because one of our commissioners is going to be leaving at 10 o'clock for a very important medical appointment, we won't have much time. So unless there are any objections, I want to go through the important part of the Sunshine meeting, and that is the approval of the proposed bills and amendments to the rules. Are there any objections by the commissioners to actually go not to start with that rather than what's on the agenda? Commissioner McCarthy, any objections?
No, I have no objections.
Any objections, Commissioner Tobias? Okay. Before we begin, I'm very happy to have introduced a new member of our staff who comes all the way from Moldova. Now, I won't test you folks as who knows where Moldova is, but I'll give you a hint. It's kind of close to the, I think it's called Russia. And next to Ukraine. So I'm going to ask Robert to introduce her, and if she has any, any words of wisdom or aloha.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce, seeing the audience with us is Christina, or she likes to go by Christy Vornau-Nu, who is a professional fellow with the U.S. State Department from Moldova. She has an extremely impressive resume, including helping co-found a citizen watchdog group in Moldova. And she's here assisting in some of the research we're doing and using this opportunity to learn more about our system. And on a reciprocal basis, we're also having an opportunity to learn more about her system and the issues that she's going through. So we're really delighted to have her with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, would you like to say anything? But you know what you do? Come back over here, come right next to me, and you can see all those smiling faces on the screen, and then just,
Thank you. I know we are on a short time, so I'll just introduce myself again. My name is Christina. I'm very happy to be here and to learn from you.
you can take off your, just drop your mask. Yeah, all right.
I will not take much time, so I was just saying that I'm happy to be here and to learn from you. And I am looking forward to this meeting.
Well, thank you and welcome to the Aloha State. And hopefully Russia doesn't have any, any thoughts about Moldova like Ukraine, and welcome. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the proposed bills and also the revised rules. And what I'm gonna do is, and it's very important that if after each I guess, bill or rule is explained by Robert, I'm gonna ask the commissioners, there are only two of us, or three of us rather, any questions or you have any objections to the bill proposed or the rule? I don't want any dotting the i's and crossing the t's because we have to get through this whole package. So it'll be on time that we can submit it to the special ethics committee. This is our opportunity to really put our 2 cents into the ethics of the state of Hawaii in regards to transparency and how, our state should act, especially our legislatures and also our government officials in regards to ethics. So it's very important that we put forth these bills and also these amended rules. So at this time, I want to ask Robert to go through each bill, summarize it. Then I'm going to ask the commissioners any questions, any objections, or any comments. And then I'll ask the public if they have any questions or comments. All right, you want to start off?
Thank you very much, Chair. Again, these are proposed bills or rules that would go to the commission to improve standards of conduct with a goal potentially of having them include these in a report that's due to the legislature December 2nd, I believe, with a recommendation that they get approved. And so this is an opportunity for the Ethics Commission to weigh in on these bills and to give suggestions, input. And obviously, there will be another opportunity at the public meeting on the 26th, I believe, at 2 p.m. Also for another opportunity for review of these bills and ideas. And again, obviously, if they get introduced through a large, long legislative session. So the first bill, which is attachment number 1, is based on concerns about the funding, in particular, of county ethics programs, particularly on the neighbor islands, where it's our experience that many have, at best, one staff person assigned to them. And sometimes that person's a part-time person. And so just sort of recognizing that they may not be adequately resourced. There is a proposal here, and there'll be another one I'll talk about later, to create a grant and aid program, which essentially to provide funding to these county ethics commissions as an opportunity to try to expand the resources and capacity. Relatively straightforward, and it would just be essentially a grant of money.
Where would the money come from?
This would be a state legislative appropriation. So, again, grant and aid program. There's another idea that we'll talk about later, but this is one of the suggestions that came out, which is essentially just provide them some money to start trying to ramp up.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Well, let me make a comment first. I personally think it's very important. Having worked forever after 4 years with some of the county ethics commission, besides the Honolulu Commission, they're really lacking in manpower and funds to really enforce the ethics code and the ethics for the outer islands. I mean, let's face it, look what happened in Kauai after 2 years and $2 million, 6 years and $2 million, and all what happened in Hilo. No one's watching in regards to the outer islands. So if we can help them, I think it would be very beneficial. Any questions from the commissioners or any objections? Commissioner McCarthy,
No, I have no objections or questions.
Commissioner Tobias,
I have none either. I think it's a very good idea.
very good, thank you. Let's move on to the next. Are any questions or comments from the public? I'm sorry.
I have a comment, if I
Yes,
could possibly make the comment. We have in the county, which, you know, I have talked to Robert before, we actually, the head, the director of the Ethics Commission in Honolulu County is lacking ethics. And she was actually removed from a commission that she was on because of the lack of ethics.
I'm
So
sorry.
I don't think that actually giving her more funding would actually
Excuse me,
help.
I'm going to interrupt you. We're not talking about personalities on any of the commissions.
Well, we're
We're
talking
talking
about the
about funding for the-
misappropriation of funds in the commissions, right? I mean,
Okay,
like if you're asking for more funds, let's actually work on the funds that are misappropriated, correct?
Are you, we're not talking about those counties, especially Honolulu. They have money. We're talking about the outer island counties.
Oh, so the Honolulu County will not receive any of these fundings from these grants?
I don't think they need it. How's that?
No, it's not whether they need it or not. Will they receive any of these grant funds?
Robert, you want to answer that?
So the grant and aid program would be open for them to apply. There would be no limitation on who could apply for it, but they still have to demonstrate the need for it.
Did you hear that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your comments. Sorry to cut you off. Anything else? Anybody else from the public? If not, let's go to the next bill.
Sure, the next bill is mandating or requiring that legislative allowance or expenditures by each legislator must be posted online. As you may be aware, and I'll try to summarize the situation simply, there are situations where legislators are entitled to allowance each year, which can be used for related expenses, such as doing newsletters, mailings, purchasing furniture, et cetera, for their office. And the intent is to try to make those expenditures public and a bit visible. We do have jurisdiction with regards to the ethicalness of that appropriation. Allowing it to be public would make it easier for us to review, but also makes it easier for the public to see and review as well.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Any objections? Commissioner McCarthy?
I have one question, generally speaking. Do we have a deadline that we're going to make our comments and to the commission? Or is it?
Yeah, so on the 26th, many of these bills will be considered by and I'll call it the Standards Commission, just to try to create some distinction. The Standards Commission will review it on the 26th. If you have concerns, comments, amendments, or take more time, you can potentially slip into November as far as trying to revise and slip it into November. But obviously,
Or am I the only one?
Sorry, Commissioner
Robert,
Tobias, can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Now, yes.
just excuse me a minute. Is that the 26th of October or the 26th of November that we have to make our submission?
We have October 26th reserved for us to submit some of these different concepts.
The reason I asked is I'm going to be reviewing these bills again. I've reviewed them once. I'm going to review them again. And if I have any further question or comment, I'll submit that to the commission.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tobias?
No objection.
Anybody from the public want to make comment or questions? Okay, thank you very much. Moving along, next bill.
So the next bill involves financial disclosures by legislators in particular. As you may be aware, legislators are part-time employees, and so many of them will have other positions or other employment, other jobs, et cetera. The current disclosure requirements may not capture, it will capture essentially total amounts of income, but it may not capture essentially where it is. So for example, if somebody is a consultant they may report that they made X amount of money consulting, but you may not get the identification of who they're working for. And that may create, there may be a conflict of interest, or at least an appearance of a conflict if, for example, they're working on behalf of a lobbyist or a lobbying organization. The intent here is to require disclosure of those connections to lobbyists or lobbying organizations in order to help highlight where conflicts of interest may exist.
Commissioner McCarthy, questions or objections?
No objection, no question. One comment, the enforcement of this when it's actually put into law may be difficult.
Comments so noted. Commissioner Tobias, any
I
questions
just
or?
have one comment, and when they realize, if this passes, when they realize that it's passed, what's the chances of them reversing that so that they're not disclosing their side job, if you will? Probably a rhetorical question. I don't expect you guys to know.
I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But let's, it's important for us if we can get it passed, then at least we know it's on the books. And I'm assuming that all the legislators and government officials know how to read English, and it's very succinct. So we'll see what happens after that. I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you.
Probably, yes.
Commissioner Tobias, the other approach would be, for example, to make it a full-time employed job, and similar to how they have treated the governor, who's now no longer allowed to have a second jobs. That's a much more aggressive approach, which means you can't work on the outside. The attempt here is, again, attempted to be somewhat moderate and reasonable, which is simply just making it public or making it noted. So, I would argue that this is a interim or intermediate step compared to sort of, maybe a more aggressive approach that could be taken.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Any questions or any comments?
Can I ask a point of information?
Oh, go ahead.
I've never filled out a disclosure statement because I've never run for office. But on the bottom of the disclosure statement, does it say that, like that if they lie on that disclosure statement, that there's penalties under like certain laws for fibbing on the financial statement? So like if we point blankly ask them who, like they have to disclose their second position or job or who they're consulting for, if they leave that out or by penalty of law, isn't there already a penalty of law for like being misleading on these forms? Do you understand what I'm asking?
We understand. I'm going to ask the executive director to answer that, if you can.
Sure. So somebody who answers falsely or misleading, that is prohibited under the law. Specifically as to whether the form itself indicates that, I'm going to pass that off to Benita. Do you know the online form if it indicates that?
Benita?
There's like a general like certified true and correct when you sign your e-signature. So that's pretty much how we view that as your certification. So this is like the modern era, right? Instead of ink, wet ink, it's the e-sig, and so there's a little box that you have an information above it, and you type in your signature, and that certifies what you're submitting is true and accurate.
To answer your question, the answer is yes. If you fill it out falsely, you got a problem. That's the bottom line. If I understand, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And this bill is maybe slightly different in that it's requiring new information that otherwise wouldn't have been revealed currently.
Okay,
Okay.
let's move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yo, thank you. We're going to try and go through this as quickly as possible because we do have a time deadline. At 10 o'clock, we're going to have to say goodbye to everybody. Next, Bill.
Sure. The next bill is relatively straightforward. Currently, lobbyists would generally disclose the area that they lobby in. So they might indicate, for example, energy or environment, but not anything with specificity. This bill actually would require them to identify the bill number, resolution number, or similar identifier of the matters that they're lobbying on. So it'd be a lot more specific. Someone's lobbying on House Bill 134, just hypothetically speaking, and allow people to see that and know that. It could be cumbersome for somebody who lobbies on a lot of bills, but again, I think the idea of higher level of public transparency would be beneficial.
Okay. Questions, objections, comments? Commissioner McCarthy,
No,
Commissioner Tobias,
None.
anybody from the public? If not, let's move on. Next bill.
All right, so the second one, or the next one is a mandatory lobbyist training. So similar to what the step we took last year, which is to require all state employees to go through training, this would require lobbyists to go through a similar training once every 2 years, and it is connected to their registration, that they have to indicate that they've been part of the training program.
Will this be online too?
The intent would be is both self-directed online, and in addition, we normally will have lobbyist Zoom trainings, right before session. So we, encourage them to do both.
Let me make a comment and I'll ask the commissioners. I think it's very good that the lobbyists, be educated. I think all of us commissioners have taken the online examination and online training in regards to ethics. I thought there was the outline was actually very succinct. It was simple and it only took a half an hour, but it was, I think, unless you don't understand English, it was very succinct in regards to what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do as a legislator or government employee. I hope that this particular online training can also be extended to the counties. And but I guess that's the next step, right? Do they have to take it? They don't have a training like us, do we?
Yeah, we don't have jurisdiction over the counties.
Yeah.
So we
And the answer is we don't have jurisdiction over the counties, but I would strongly encourage them to follow suit. Because I tell you, after taking that online training, I think, a lot of things you take for granted were really clarified. So I think it's important that we can encourage the counties to follow suit and do an online training like we do for the state and officials and the legislators. So having said that, Commissioner McCarthy?
I have no objection. I totally agree and concur with Chair Fong's an assessment. The training for lobbyists is essential.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobias?
I also agree. I think it's essential that they be trained, and I agree with you that it is very simple.
Simple in the sense
Simple in the sense that they should be able to read it, follow the directions, and finish it.
Very good. And I'm assuming all of you passed the quiz first time, right? Never mind.
Absolutely.
You don't have to answer that. Anybody from the public? Any comments?
I just want to thank you. You guys are doing a great job.
Well,
Thank
thank you. Thank you for your comment. Next bill.
So the next bill is one that we have talked about somewhat at length before. This is a prohibition on nepotism. And it's more of a black and white line than what we currently have. And it is specific as to supervision and hiring of familial members.
Comments, objections, questions? Commissioner McCarthy?
I have no objection, but my comment is this. This may be the most important thing that's going to be addressed. And I think this is has such a long, difficult history in the islands of nepotism in families that in many cases, as we all know, it can lead to greater corruption. So this is really important, and I totally support
it. Commissioner Tobias?
I also support it because I've seen what happens when pillow talk rules the day.
Yeah.
In other words, you can't hire your wife to be on your staff.
Right.
Any member from the public, comments, questions? Okay, moving right along.
Thank you guys so much. These bills are wonderful. I am smiling ear to ear. Thank you for protecting the taxpayers in Hawaii.
Well, thank you for your compliment. I used to say, I think this is what we get paid for. I say it tongue in cheek, doing it voluntarily, right? But I want to thank the staff because they're the ones who drafted these bills and also the amended rules. Next.
The next is it's slightly a little bit more complicated to review. It is proposed revisions to both the House and Senate rules. The House and Senate rules currently are different, so they're a slightly different form, but the intent is the same for both. It is specific to conflicts of interest for legislators. The Ethics Commission has limited jurisdiction over conflicts of interest, and there have been concerns raised that legislators, when raising conflicts of interest, are usually allowed to continue forward despite the potential conflict of interest. And so the intent here is to make recusal not only from voting, but from participation in discussion of the bills, behind the scenes conversations, et cetera, more per se, recusal becoming the more per se default option. When there is a dispute, whether or not there is an actual conflict, the intent is then to require disclosure of what the potential conflict is and an actual vote among either the committee members or the floor to allow sort of the public airing of what that issue may be. In addition, it's a slightly more restrictive conflict of interest standard than we currently use, which is largely focused on financial conflicts. This would actually go so far as looking at appearance or issues. We had one public testifier talk about how she had helped prosecute one of the senators. Then when she came up for confirmation as Attorney General, that senator voted against her and said it wasn't a conflict of interest. And the intent here is to try to catch those type of situations. So again, this is pretty detailed. There's a lot of language here, but happy to discuss if anybody has any questions or concerns about it.
Thank you. Commissioner McCarthy, questions, objections?
I have no objections, no questions, no comments.
Commissioner Tobias?
I think it's a good thing that we're moving forward with this, and I really like it.
Any comments or questions or comments from the public? If not, thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
Accountability.
You just tell us which one you don't like. Don't love.
All right, I'll be quiet.
No, please. This is an open forum. We're always transparent. We want to make sure we get some also feedback from the public too, because we're actually working for all of you in regards to ethics for the state of Hawaii. Next.
So there are two bills that did not make the filing deadline that the intent is still to put forward the commissions to improve standards of conduct. So I hope you don't mind if you allow me to orally describe them.
Go ahead.
And we can post them on our website and make them available for the public to see as well as the fact that on the 26th, they will be considered and the public will have an opportunity to opine about them there as well. The first one is a resolution that directs the counties to look at the adequacy of their current ethics commission. So it's sort of an association with a grant and aid program. The idea is just basically asking the counties to consider if any improvements are necessary for the current ethics organizations, and also sort of pointing out some of the recent corruption issues and sort of encouraging them to sort of look at that and to use that as an opportunity, much like the Commission's standards of conduct, to see what other changes are necessary. So it's basically encouraging the counties to do the same thing that the state is currently doing right now.
Questions, comments, objections?
None.
Commissioner Tobias, none?
None from me.
Public, any questions, comments, objections? Okay, next one.
And the second one is, again, this is a concept we discussed in our June meeting, I believe, is making the gift restrictions that currently are on state employees also applicable to lobbyists. Again, these are people who are paid to lobby for the legislature, making the gift regulations reciprocal in them as well. So essentially encouraging them or requiring them not to provide prohibited gifts. So the idea is that it's reciprocal on both ends.
I have a question. Are we talking about gifts under $25, or is there I think there was a limit, isn't there?
So our new standards look more specifically at who's giving the gift, and there really is no longer a $25 threshold. And so the intent is contractors that have a contract with the state of Hawaii or lobbyists are the type of individuals that are generally speaking prohibited from giving gifts to those people that they're lobbying or that they're contracting with. And so, you know, the intent here is essentially to put that restriction also on the lobbyists to say, you know, state employees can't take it and you can't give it.
So there's no monetary limit. In other words, the answer is nothing to be given by lobbyists to influence.
There are exceptions which are specifically expressed out. The intent that those exceptions still apply. So for example, a gift of a lei, a gift of a celebratory plaque, these are types of things that are noted as specific exceptions.
Well, how about $20 worth of manapua?
No.
Sorry, guys. A lei is okay, but manapua is not.
All right.
Commissioner McCarthy.
The only comment I have is because of the long-standing tradition of gift giving and maybe under the table gift giving, this should meet stern resistance. I absolutely approve it and agree.
Commissioner Tobias.
The only question I have would be in-kind services where there's not a monetary exchange, but kind of like a quid pro quo kind of thing. So it should be nothing across the board in my mind.
Yes.
So basically, just no monetary value, but quid pro quo, as they call it.
So the definition of a gift would include, you know, services, lodging, housing.
Okay.
It's a relatively broad term. The thing that I really do want to stress for this commission and sort of, you know, part of the intent, you know, the idea of gifts of aloha are, you know, the idea is your neighbor gives you tangerines, you know, when they have extra tangerines and you give them mango. The idea is it's reciprocal gift of exchange going back and forth. The challenge was, you know, we were seeing essentially, you know, gifts only flowing one direction from lobbyists to legislators. It's not a reciprocal type of relationship. Further, a lot of times, you know, if you set a $25 limit, you're gonna have challenges of, well, what's the value of X, you know, and then what do we do if it's $26? What if it's $29? And just really that system was really difficult to administer. The challenge was, again, it wasn't really a gift of aloha. It was somebody, you know, pushing the limit as far as they could go. Again, I don't, you know, the way the administrative rules are written currently, we do not have concern with someone from the community, a neighbor, giving a legislator a small gift. The intent isn't to go after that. It really is specific to lobbyists or other people that are trying to get official action from these people of using the gift as a means to get in the office, or the perception that that's the only way you can talk to legislators to give them something.
Who's going to enforce this?
This would be us. Again, we regulate the gifts.
You're going to define what gifts of aloha are. You mentioned leis. How about mangoes from my mango tree if it ever grows?
So again, if it was you, you're not a lobbyist.
No, I know, but assuming I'm a lobbyist.
So again, the exceptions are pretty specific, and over the past 2 years, I think we've done a pretty good job of reaching out to a lot of different legislators and encouraging them and training them that these are types of things that you cannot accept.
Okay, we do it about case by case basis, what you're telling me. But leis so far are okay.
Correct.
Depending on the cost of the leis. Some of these leis are astronomical.
If ever there was a slippery slope, we're talking about it right now.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
we expressly say no money lays.
Plumeria leis, which you get plumerias, you pick off the trees, that's fine. If you give a Christina lei, you're a subject to suspicion. Anyway, I'm joking. Any more bills?
That's all.
Let's do the rules. You know
So the conflicts of interest or rule.
Oh,
proposals
okay.
that we could go
So
through.
we're pretty much finished.
We're through with the proposals that are going in on the 26th.
Congrats. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I should mention, and it's maybe a little less connected directly to the ethics. There are 2 bills that are still being worked on with regards to the legislative process. One is something proposed by Jim Sean with regards to essentially a citizen's bill of rights. The idea is it's putting into the legislative rules I would say it's probably more, less mandatory and more sort of expressing what the intent is, but it essentially would say that, for example, testimony should be posted online before a hearing. You should get, adequate hearing notice of hearings, and it goes through. You should treat the public with civility. And the idea is the Bill of Rights is intended to sort of express what should be the code of conduct when interacting with the public, between legislators and the public. So that is something that's also being worked on, specific to sort of legislator conduct and sort of ensuring the publics have access to what's going on at the legislature.
Okay, let me go through the staff and ask them if they have any comments, or I don't think they should have any questions that it proposes. Susan, any comments?
I don't have any comments other than to say that I think this is a good collection of measures to propose. In the past, we have tried introducing bills to expand the conflicts of interest laws. We've introduced bills to prohibit nepotism, but those bills were never passed. And so I think it was Vice Chair Gralty who said, now is the time for us to take action on this through the Standards Committee. So I'm hopeful that some of these measures will in fact go through.
And again, we thank the staff for drafting, proposing these. Benito, any comments?
No comments.
Key, any comments?
No comments from me. I echo Susan's comment. I hope, we get some of these to pass.
Nancy?
No, just thank you to Robert for all his hard work on this, and let's hope they pass.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion from the commissioners to approve the proposed bills to be sent up to the Special Ethics Committee. Is that correct?
Commission to improve standards of conduct.
Good. What Barbara said, it's a mouthful, but to approve these proposed bills, I'll entertain a motion that we approve on behalf of the commission, State Commission.
So moved.
Second,
Moving second that the State Ethics Commission approve these proposed bills to be sent. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, we'll do a roll call vote. Let's see, Commissioner McCarthy,
aye.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion's carried. Thank you very much to Robert and staff. All right, now that we finished that, let's go back to the agenda, which is a little more mundane, as they say. Consideration approval of minutes, September 21st, 2022. Were both of them here?
Let me confirm. Yes.
Okay, need a motion to approve the minutes of September 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Just raise your right hand. All in favor? I see none. No nays. Motion's carried. Thank you. Next one. Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. Again, if you don't mind, I just like also express my gratitude to all the staff for working so hard on many of these proposals. Almost entirely, they were taking, one of the individual staff members took the lead on drafting, working on them, and they really deserve a lot of the credit. This is sort of on top of an already busy workload. So, my gratitude is eternally theirs and all their hard work on this. And I know we're gonna have to keep working on it through the legislative session. Shifting into the report, I'd like to highlight, we are seeing a relatively large uptick in trainings. In September, we had 781 state employees, including Commissioner Fong, going through the online self-directed training. We had 370 participants participate in a live training webinar. And for example, in this month, like tomorrow, we have, I think, over 700 people signed up for our Zoom training tomorrow. So the mandatory ethics training bill is working. People are taking the courses. We're definitely seeing a large increase, and we're gonna have to just keep working at it to try to make sure we get to all approximately 60,000 or so state employees and board members. In addition, we received 63 new assignments in September, and we managed to close 56 assignments in September as well. That's a pretty quick skim. I abbreviated quite a bit, recognizing that we needed to get to the other part. Is there any questions or comments?
Let me make one comment. I am very pleased after 4 years of being on this commission that we have a mandatory training program for our legislation, state employees and boards. As I mentioned before, the online training is very comprehensive, very simple, and only takes 30 minutes. And if you don't pass it the first time for the quiz, well, shame on you. So I would definitely encourage us to encourage the counties to adopt a similar program for online training. Then we don't have to have some of these state employees or board members coming and says, I didn't know. Now, if you take the training, you should have known. I mean, I think it's very good, and I applaud the staff for drafting this online, simplified, comprehensive training. Comments by the commissioners? Commissioner McCarthy, anything?
No,
Commissioner Tobias?
No,
Anybody from the public? If not, let's
Is
move
there a
on.
way that the people from the public can actually view this online ethics class?
Absolutely. If you go to our website, which is, I believe, ethics. I'll pause here. Patrick, can you put in the chat our website address? You go to the training tab, you can drop down and there's a self-directed training course. It is marked for state employees, but anyone can take it. It takes about 30 minutes or so, like Commissioner Fong said.
Yes. Does that help?
That helps immensely. I'm so happy with everything that you guys are doing. You are the foundation to help us fight the corruption that is here in Hawaii. And I can't tell you how proud I am of your commission and what you have been doing. And Robert, if the commissioners don't thank you, then we should be, and they should be. And I want to thank you for what you've done and what you've brought to the State Ethics Commission.
Thank you very much for the compliment. And I take that exam, and you can give us feedback, what you think about it. Thank you. Moving along.
So I think that actually, we do also have the high road attached as an attachment. I want to thank both Susan and Caroline for helping put that together. And I think that's probably it with regards to the executive director report.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is Akana versus the never-ending Akana case. Any stats?
No status on that I'm aware of.
So no. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners on Akana case? Commissioner McCarthy?
I don't have any questions on that case, but I have a quick question I want to ask Robert. What is the date of the sentencing of Mr. Cullen? Has that occurred yet? I have a feeling it's pretty soon.
So it was supposed to be tomorrow. However, I've been told that it's been postponed till January.
Oh, okay.
And I believe Commissioner McCarthy, we discussed this at our last meeting in regards to, I guess, an initiative from our commission. So
Right.
we discussed it in the adjudicatory meeting.
Right. Okay.
Commissioner Tobias, anything? Any comments?
no. Mm-mm.
Okay, I think that's it. That's all we have on the agenda. I want to thank all of you for expediting this very important aspect of our commission in regards to proposed bills and training. You have something else?
I hope, if I can beg your indulgence just
Sure.
for 1
Go ahead.
minute. One of the areas I think Commissioner Tobias was interested in, that we presented in on June, was regarding streamlining between the state and county commissions. Specifically, what we were talking about was with lobbyist registration, to try to make it easy for lobbyists to register for both state and county at the same time. In conversation with both, Honolulu Ethics Commission is the one I think would sort of flag this in particular being of interest. In conversations with them and with Patrick, rather than try to pursue a legislative change, I think what we're going to try to do, and it may be a next year thing, is try to add an opt-in where people can indicate they're interested in also registering at one of the various county ethics or all, and then we essentially forward their registration information to those counties. So counties would then essentially get all the information we have and allow them to help prepare the registration and work with the lobbyists directly. So it's an attempt to kind of make it easier for lobbyists who may not understand there's both a state and county regulation over this that is separate, to try to make it easy for them to register for both at the same time, or easier. And it just seems like it's a bit of a Band-Aid approach, but it seems a lot simpler to do. Whereas a legislative approach may require us trying to sync everybody's reporting, deadlines, requirements, et cetera, which is, again, just seemed too difficult to do.
Can we mention the fact that we proposed a state conference? Let's just leave it on the agenda.
No, I think it's fine to bring up.
Just a point of information, I had brought up the idea of having, again, a state ethics conference with the state and all the counties, so that we can share our knowledge and our expertise in regards to many of the areas of ethics which affect not only the state, but also more so the counties, as I had mentioned. So we'll be discussing more of the details, and if it does come about, it may be after the legislative session, because we don't want to overburden our staff. But I think I've got responses from the commissioners, and most of them are in favor, but we'll discuss that later. That's just for information, so that we are not just the state, but the counties and the state are just one big ethical entity that we can share and make sure that we're transparent and that our ethics is, not only for the state, but also for the counties too.
Mhm.
Commissioner McCarty?
I just wanted to say, Wesley, I think that's a wonderful idea, particularly in view of the fact that we're proposing an increase in funding for the county ethics entities. I think if we have that type of meeting where we share common ideas, just a great idea. I hope that comes to pass.
Thank you. I'm looking, hopefully I'm a little optimistic that it will happen, and it'll be beneficial to the whole state of Hawaii, period.
Definitely.
Commissioner Tobias, any comments?
I just said definitely. I totally agree with Harry, because I think that one of the things that people need to know and understand is that it's not just the state dictating what they need to do. It's the state complementing them and giving them information that they can use going forward with their issues.
Very good. Thank you very much. Anybody, any member of the public want to say anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, everybody. See no nays, the motion's carried. This meeting's adjourned. It is 9:50. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Commissioners, stick